everyone. Welcome to the National Museum of Singapore. I am Puisam.
And I'm Swee, and we are going to bring you on a virtual tour of the Singapore History Gallery. You will get to learn more about Singapore and its past through some old objects, or what we call artifacts, in the museum.
For today's tour, we will look at something close to our hearts. We see them all around us in Singapore. Almost 80% of Singaporeans live in this type of housing. Can anyone guess what it is?
Yes, it's our HDB flats. I'm now currently standing in front of a recreated HDB flat of the 1970s in the Singapore History Gallery of our National Museum.
Before Singapore became independent in 1965, many people lived in shophouses and kampongs with poor living conditions. Floods, fires, and outbreak of diseases were common back then. In 1960, the Housing and Development Board, or HDB in short, was set up by the new government. They were tasked to quickly build simple blocks of flats to provide affordable rental housing for the people.
By the 1970s, HDB started building flats that were larger and better designs. HDB estates also had shops, schools, hawker centers, and light factories around them. More people started to move from the shophouses and kampongs into these HDB flats.
How many of you are living in a HDB flat or have lived in one before? Please raise your hand. Well, I remember purchasing my first HDB flat with my husband. We were a very young couple then. We spent the whole morning in the HDB office waiting in a queue to select our dream flat. Eventually, we've gotten a unit with an auspicious number 10288. We were so happy we couldn't sleep that night after completing our purchase. What about you? Share your story.
To the seniors among us, how did you feel when you first bought your HDB home and why? Share your stories with us. Does anyone have any experience to share about how you moved from a shop house or a kampong into a HDB flat? How different was it to live in a HDB flat as compared to a kampong or a shop house?
Welcome to my HDB flat. Can anyone tell me what you see here? Did anyone say Grandma's house? Well, such louver windows and metal gates were a common feature in many of our HDB flats of the 1970s and 1980s. Some of us who own bicycles may just park them right outside our house. We will use a chain lock to secure it against the pipe. Well, today, there are special designated spaces for us to park our bicycle, typically on the first floor of our new HDB flats. You may have noticed we can't see through the bottom panel of our louver windows. Do you know why?
They were designed to provide privacy for the people living in the flat. Neighbors would sometimes walk past the units to get to their own home. The top panels are usually clear or slightly translucent to allow light to enter the house.
Do you know why only louver windows are used and not other type of windows? Well, imagine if we have used casement window that open outwards. When we are walking home and your neighbor decide to open the window, ouch, we may just bump into it.
How does the exterior or outside of the flat look similar or different from the one you live in today?
Now, let us take a look at what is inside my flat. Please come in.
In here, there is a kitchen and a living room that was common in the HDB flats of the 1970s and 1980s. Look at the tiles. Do you like this type of wall and floor tiles? What color would you choose if it was for your own home? How is the kitchen design here different from your kitchen at home?
Now let us take a look at the various kinds of electrical appliances and furniture that family used to own.
The home appliances on display here were once precious items that Singapore families wanted. As these items were expensive, families would only buy them when they could afford it. What are some electrical appliances you can see here? Are there any appliances in your home kitchen that are not found here? What are they?
Which of these appliances do you think was the most desired back in the 1970s? Did anyone say refrigerators? Yes, you are right. Refrigerators were believed to be the most desired appliance back in the 1970s.
For many people, this meant that they did not need to make a trip to the wet market every day to get fresh groceries. They could shop for groceries for a few days and leave them in the fridge without worrying about them going bad.
I was lucky. My family already have a small refrigerator. So what do I really want most? It would have to be the electric stand mixer. When I was young, my mother wanted to bake. We can only use a mechanical cake mixer. My brother and I would have to take turns sitting on the floor, turning and turning the cake mixer. The task was tedious and time-consuming. Then came the electric handheld cake mixer. The task was much easier, but we still have to stand there holding the cake mixer. Finally, the electric stand mixer came about. Can you imagine how happy we were? We now can have yummy cakes without doing so much work. Well, I hope you like my kitchen and my story. Suiki is waiting for you in the living room. Let's move on to join him there.
Welcome to the living room. Does this living room look like the one you have at home? How is it different or similar? Look at the design of the tiles. What kind of patterns can you see? What is the family doing in this mural on the wall? The mural shows a family of 4 watching television together. We only had black and white television programs when TV broadcasts started in 1963. Some of our seniors among us may remember watching television at community centers because few families could afford a television set in their homes at the time. To our seniors, can you share with us your experience of black and white television when TV broadcasts first started? Colored TV was introduced in 1974. Even at the time, not every family could afford to own a television set, and it was not uncommon to see neighbors visiting the homes of other neighbors who owned a television set. I remember my own experience of watching color television for the first time in July 1974. And the program that was picked for live broadcast was the World Cup's final between West Germany and the Netherlands. Soccer was very popular in Singapore in the 1970s. I was at a relative's house and he had bought this big TV set and invited us all to his house to watch the live telecast. We were all waiting excitedly for the program to switch from black and white to color. And when the time came, the TV screen burst into full color. We all cheered and clapped. And it was as if we were there watching the game in person. And what a game it was. And the final score, West Germany 2, the Netherlands 1. To our seniors, what was your memory watching color TV for the first time? What sort of television programs did you watch back then? I have two favorite TV programs during my growing up years in the 60s. One was The Green Hornets, and The Green Hornets was popular because of one man and his martial arts skill. His name in the show was Kato, but you and I know him better as Bruce Lee. And who can forget these two local comedians, Wang Sa and Ye Feng? Every auntie and uncle simply loved them. Even as a teenager, I used to like watching their shows. Today, you can still enjoy their programs on YouTube and other online platforms. Look at the sofa set. How many people can fit on these sofas on display here? Probably 4 if you want to sit comfortably. To the children, what would you do if there are not enough seats when your grandparents visit? Well, my grandchildren will invite my wife and I to sit on the sofa because Grandpa and Grandma would not be able to sit on the floor. So, I hope you do the same with your grandparents when they come to visit.
We hope that the seniors have been inspired to share more interesting stories with the younger ones about life back in the 1970s and 1980s, especially if you have experienced moving from a kampong or a shop house into a HDB flat.
For our younger ones, we hope you have learned a thing or two about HDB living back in the 1970s and the 1980s. We are sure you still have many questions that we were unable to answer in this tour. Please ask your parents or grandparents and get them to share their stories and experiences with you.
And with that, we've come to the end of today's tour. We hope you've enjoyed the tour as much as we have, bringing it to you. Do remember to come down to the museum. Till then, bye.